Welcome everyone, I'm Blake from Bourbonr. If you didn't get a chance to tune in last night, we did the Bourbonr blind tasting episode number 2 with the live reveal. The full show of that is posted at bourbonr.com/blog. But if you don't want to spend an hour listening to all the results, I figured I'd go ahead and give just this 5 to 7 minute video with the results. So we have 10 samples to get through. There were a lot of good whiskeys in this one. This was the wheated bourbon edition of Bourbonr blind tasting. So we're going to jump straight into it. I'm going to go from 10 and count down to the number 1 whiskey in this one. So number 10 with an average rating of 71.75, we have Larceny. Larceny is a wheated bourbon from Heaven Hill. And one I actually recommend. So we talked about it a little bit on the show, but it falls into that mixing category. It's not terrible by any means, but fell short in a lot of different areas for most people. Next up at number 9, we have Rebel Yell 10-year. So Rebel Yell came in with a rating of 76. And this is another one that I have recommended to a lot of people and was a little bit surprising. I thought that could be one of those that may sneak up on people. But in the end, I think, it just has a lot more leathery notes. Ed Bley from Cork and Bottle said it has a lot of that earthiness that people hate or love. And I think that's what was throwing some. In 8th place, we have a Maker's Mark from 1983. So a Dusty Maker's Mark. This came in with a rating of 79.5. I'm going to chalk this one up a little bit to some oxidation in the bottle. I've had this bottle open for probably a little over a year. But Maker's Mark Dusties are really some great bourbons, some fantastic stuff coming out of the Maker's Mark distillery from mid-70s or so. And even though that's early 80s, I still think probably would have done a little better had it been a freshly opened bottle, but it is what it is. The reviews came in, so we left it there. Next up in 7th place, which may surprise a lot of you because this is by far the most expensive bottle. Well, close to the most expensive bottle if you take into consideration secondary, is a 2016 Old Rip Van Winkle 10-year. This is what everyone goes crazy for every fall and pays upwards of $350 for. Only got a rating of 79.75. If you check out the blog post, you can see a lot of notes. People found it a little harsh on the nose. Just a lot of things you don't expect from a bottle that gets that much praise. But then again, it's the bottom of the line for the Van Winkle line. It's their 10-year. It's the lowest aged bourbon they have, and the monster that the Van Winkle line has become has turned it into something else. So keep that in mind when you're going to buy, sell, or trade. Let's see. Next up in 6th place, we have Maker's Mark Cask Strength, and Maker's Mark Cask Strength got an 82.5. Tried to keep most of these, as I said, they're all wheated bourbons, but tried to keep most of them in the same age range and a similar proof range. So everything's varying between, I think there's one more that's a little higher, but 112 proof was the highest in this category, and lowest was 90 with some of the Wellers. Really a great bourbon. Actually, after pouring the samples of the Maker's Mark Cask Strength, I had a little pour, and I think I've gone back to it, 2 or 3 more times at least since then. Really a great bourbon. Still $60-$70 on most shelves. So if you're looking for a good bourbon to pick up, that's probably a good option. Next up in 5th place, we have a 2016 Weller 12, and it came in with a rating of 82.25. So Weller 12, as most of you know, made by Buffalo Trace. It's a wheated bourbon mash bill, same mash bill as the Pappy Van Winkle brand. Weller 12 was a shelf bourbon 3 to 4 years ago. Now you can't find it. So I wanted to put two Weller 12s in there just to see how it would compare between the years. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But fifth place for Weller 12, and another bottle that's pretty highly sought after in the bourbon world. All right, now number 4 is this is a store pick from ABC here in Florida. It's their Old Weller Antique. It just kind of eked out some of the other bourbons with 83, and I actually really like this store pick. But check out Kenny's notes on this one. He just doesn't like it. But you know, some other guys in the tasting really enjoyed it. So somebody actually gave it a 90. So a little bit of disagreement on that one, but I still think it was a pretty good pick from ABC. Now in third place, we have another store pick, but this is a Maker's Mark Private Select store pick from Browdy's, which is a store here in Jacksonville, Florida. If you don't know much about store picks from Maker's Mark, make sure you check out the video, and you can just slide all the way till you get to this one. It's towards the end, but a lot of good information on it. So I'll give you the quick overview, which is Maker's Mark. They allow you take the Maker's Mark bourbon, cask strength, you add 10 different staves from 5 different options of staves. We haven't quite figured out the math, but I think it's 10 to the 5th power, which is whatever, 10,000 or something. But that's not what this show is about, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. But this Browdy's pick, they picked 3 of the Baked American Pure, 1 Seared French Cuvée, 1 Maker's 46, 4 Roasted French Mocha, and finally 1 Toasted French Spice Stave. So I think it was really that French Mocha that brought out a lot more tannins, a little more bitterness, and some of those chocolatey notes that a lot of people were getting. All right, second place is the other Weller 12 in the lineup, and this is actually a 2017 Weller 12. Apparently the quality didn't drop with the new label. You know, as soon as the label changes, a lot of people will start claiming that, oh, it's not the same as it used to be. This actually did really well. Had one of the highest ratings in the entire lineup, which was a 95. And the lowest was an 82 on this one, giving it an average of 86.5. So really a good showing for that bourbon. So finally, the one that everyone wanted to hear about and got the biggest reaction by far during the show, if you watched it, it is V, and it got an 87.5. And if you're wondering why I'm holding up a Magic Bullet container, it's because this is Poor Man's Pappy that I blended in my Magic Bullet and put it into the sample bottles. So this is a little trick I stole from, I think it was Modernist Cuisine when they talk about hyper decanting wine. I tried it on a couple different bourbons. I did a post about it a while ago. It did really well, and actually put Poor Man's Pappy in a blind tasting before this, and it did really well. So I figured, why not throw it in here, and wouldn't know, it actually came in first place with the highest rating by far, well, a full point above everything else. So it was pretty funny to see that win. You know, the Poor Man's Pappy has been a blend that's been around for a long time. Originally started as the Weller Centennial blend on straight bourbon, and then kind of transformed into Poor Man's Pappy. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably seen that post. But it's 60-40 Weller 12 to Weller Antique, and I just used the 2 bourbons in this, which was the 2017 Weller 12 and then the ABC store pick of the Weller Antique. So probably going to do a follow-up video about that, but yeah, pretty funny that one. So thanks for watching this. Enjoyed it.